My name is Morgan Smith, and I will be talking to you about gender inequality in law enforcement. So, as I just stated, the problem is gender inequality in law enforcement. To start it off, just a little statistic. According to COPS, 13% of women make up law enforcement, and that's only in large police departments. And when they try and reach supervisory positions, they actually hit what is called the brass ceiling. So that is just like the glass ceiling in other professions, but the brass ceiling is for military and law enforcement. So when they finally do try and reach those positions, they are met by men with harassment and resistance. So also women feel that they have to prove themselves in order to be respected, whereas men do not. They are just generally accepted immediately. So I chose this topic because coming from a law enforcement family, including my mom, I find it important to know the reality of what I'm going into and how I can possibly change it. As you can see, my sorority actually did a whole thing about gender equality, and mine was about law enforcement, and it says society says law enforcement is gender specific, but I am here to say that's wrong. So I took a quote from the Kentucky State University Assistant Police Chief. If you do not have to give, you do not have to give me anything extra. You don't have to give me a sweet assignment. You don't have to protect me. You don't have to do all of this stuff to make me different than this one. I just want to be treated as the same as the officer standing here. So, as stated by Kelly Foreman, it has been statistically proven that women improve the police community with community policing, which is known as COPS. Also, with the response to domestic violence and statistically lower use of force, which is a huge issue today in society. As stated by Barbara Price, we're going to do a brief history real quick. In 1910, the first woman police officer was hired by the Los Angeles Police Department. Women were not permitted to go on street patrol, and were not allowed to be promoted unless in their specific women's unit. So they were pretty much put on desk unit or used as for people to walk into the police department, you can talk to them. When women tried to apply for this promotion outside of their own gendered unit, they were shot down because they said that they did not have enough experience, and that's not really fair because they weren't given that opportunity to begin with. So she also states men would fear that women would violate the department's secrets and pretty much expose their corruption of what they're doing. So be good people. This was noticed that this was the biggest reason for the resistance and harassment of women, and that's why it's continued on to this day. Men have no clue really why it started, but they're continuing it. So we're going to do some statistics real quick. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, large police departments, which are 500 and above, have 21% women. Medium police departments, which are about 100 people to 500 people, have 9%. And small police departments, which are 100 people or lower, have 10%. Detroit, which is one of the biggest police departments, has the biggest percentage with 27%. But then there was an increase in women from 1987 to 2007 that joined the Bureau of Prisons, Bureau of Investigation, and the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts. If you realize, though, those are the 3 investigative federal bureaus that actually are not that hands-on with crime. They are what are known as the safest ones. So that is still a huge blockage. The thing about these statistics of where I got it from is that it lacks the information about superior positions. So it does not account for what men do, does not account for what we are not getting. It also shows that there is a wage gap by about 2%. So according to womeninpolicing.org, 6.5% of women are in top command positions. This was as of 1997. 9.2% are in supervisory positions, and 14.6% are in line of operations. For those of you that don't know, that's like top command, then we got supervisory, then we have line operations like lieutenant and stuff like that. So more than 20% of agencies report that there are no women in top command positions at all. And for colored women, there are actually 80% report that there are none at all. So there may not be very many solutions to this problem, but there's an increasing number. The only solution to this problem is increasing the number of women in the law enforcement to begin with. So there are a few ways to do that. First, you have to target women, have recruiters specifically go after those. It's almost like how the military does. Also create mentors and role models for those going through the law enforcement career. So the National Association of Women Law Enforcement Executives are actually created. This is housed in Kansas, but it's for all of America. Their mission is to inspire women to enter the field of law enforcement, empower to recognize and develop their own leadership, and achieve their own unique career goals, as stated by their website. I think this is really cool because they actually do give mentoring programs to women going through this. So for research purposes, I feel as if it should be conducted again when the majority of the millennial generation has taken over this career field. I think this is relevant to request because it is very important to understand that millennials have a different view on almost everything, and they don't always share the same values that the old time did. So I think it's very important for us to know if it's almost going by generation. So with that, I hope that you guys understand the problem of gender inequality in law enforcement, why this is an issue, the statistics that prove about this inequality, and the possible solution and research that can be done. And that is my presentation.